Hello and welcome to another episode of the Cleveland Sports Pros podcast. I'm Matt alongside my brother Nick. Nick, how are you doing today?
Great, excited to be back. I know it's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while, and just for our listeners and fans, we're probably going to during the summer and baseball season, probably focus on one episode a month until football season comes back. Obviously, if anything major happens with either the Guardians or Cavs, we'll probably throw in an extra episode. But just so you know, that's our expected schedule until football season comes around at least. So without further ado, Nick, let's talk about the I would say red hot Guardians.
Yes, definitely. I mean, who would have thought coming out of the season with a new manager and a couple new faces, they would uh, win the first four series of their season for the first time since 2002, putting them at a respectable 9-3.
Yeah, and a few things that have jumped out to me. Obviously, we had the horrible injury news with Shane Bieber, and that's on top of the already injuries we had in the pitching staff. But something that definitely stood out to me that we haven't seem to have in recent years as much is the number of runs they're scoring. Currently, they've scored 69 runs, which I believe is eighth in the MLB. I'm pretty sure. Or seventh, but they're best in run differential, which is something I know it's early in the season that can certainly change. But that's something that, to my knowledge, we haven't seen much lately with this team. They're kind of used to winning if they do win one-run games or two-run games, but they're not only putting up a lot of runs, but also, of course, limiting their opponents. So you love to see that. I mean, good teams usually will often blow out their opponents. So I know you can argue the schedule hasn't been that tough so far, but you can only play the teams that are put in front of you. So, Nick, what do you think about that?
Yeah, and I believe I heard over the past few games, the Guardians are averaging 6 runs per game. Uh, Again, we're not sure if that'll be maintained, but whether you win by 6 or you win by one, a win is a win. And it was last night that they won by a run after trailing 5-0 to one of the worst teams in baseball. It was a second straight night they had to come back trailing 5-0. Only in the rubber match, aka the clutch game, they made it count with the walk-off win. And what a night it was for the Naylor brothers, Josh and Bo. And on National Siblings Day, Josh and Bo hit home runs in the same inning for the second time in their career, becoming just the fourth pair of brothers to accomplish that.
Yeah, that was amazing to see, and Josh, especially Josh, is becoming kind of a dependable hitter, and kind of riding off the success of our last year, and hopefully Bo can continue to develop it as a big league player. Um, Yeah, it was really cool to see, like you said, especially on National Siblings Day. And obviously, one more thing about the differential and runs scored and runs allowed. Obviously, not every team has played the same number of games at this point, but I'm gonna take that stat with me as far as we can go. Um, so Nick, what else have you seen so far in this early season that you like that you think has led to this 93 record?
Well, I'm going to switch to the defense. We know, unfortunately, as you mentioned, Bieber out for the year. I, I was heartbroken when I heard that news. I almost didn't want to watch that game when they were facing the Twins. But the day they found out the news, they were able to grab a 9-3 win. And I'm sorry, 3-1 win. And it was David Fry that got a massive 3-run home run. But what stands out to me defensively is Brian Rocchio. Again, it's early, but I'd say he's putting up what people say Gold Glove defensive plays. Last night in the bottom of the ninth, Clase had men on first and third, and he made a massive double play and held the runner at third base and kept the game tied going into the bottom of the ninth. Cleveland could not grab the win in the ninth, but after Chicago took the lead in the top of the 10th, uh, Josh Naylor doubled and Bo Naylor doubled home Tyler Freeman, who substituted as a pinch runner. So again, that defensive play kind of kept them get their hopes going, and both Naylor brothers stayed hot in the late innings.
Yeah, for sure. And it was great to see them, like you said, come back from a 5-0 deficit, tied up, and then lose well, give up the lead or give up the tie game, I should say, go into extra innings. And then win it in walk-off fashion this early in the season. I think it took a while last year for them to get their first walk-off win, but I'd have to check that. So next series, they have the New York Yankees. The Yankees are obviously a good team. We know that. Nick, what do you expect out of this series? And who do you have pitching in the opening game of that series?
Opening game of the series, I did not check who is on the mound for the Yankees, but Carlos Cookie Carrasco, an old fan favorite, will be making his home debut again. I'm sure he'll get a nice ovation from the fans. Uh, he's for a fourth starter in the rotation. He's given them pretty reliable numbers. I know he's not what he once was. He's been away from Cleveland uh in New York on the Mets for 3 seasons. And now that he's back in Cleveland. He's found a spot in the rotation, and they're gonna need a veteran presence like him to give them a chance to win. I don't know how long Carrasco will be used. I don't expect him to be in the rotation all 6 months, but we'll see how he does.
Yeah, definitely. I was excited when I looked it up that Cookie's gonna be taking them out, and like you said, he's a fan favorite, and I'm so happy he's made it back. And I know a lot of it is due to injuries. I don't want to take away from him. I think he's still a good pitcher, and he might surprise people and might last a while on this rotation, hopefully. So really pulling for him this Friday, and hopefully they get a win against the Yankees.
Definitely. And one more point I'd like to make. Uh, every fan knows this is manager Stephen Vogt's rookie season, not just for the Guardians, but in general. He was a player for the Oakland A's, so going into the first series of the season, it was nice to see him get the season opener win and the series win against his old team. And he he knows a lot about catchers because he was a catcher's coach in the bullpen for the Seattle Mariners last season. Uh, what has stood out to you from Stephen Vogt so far?
Yeah, for me, it's tough to say this early, but I do know he's young, and not to take anything away from Terry Francona. I think he's one of the greatest managers the game's ever had. But he, we know this is a young roster, and I think that maybe the players, his leadership style just might resonate more in that clubhouse. Again, not to say that Francona couldn't lead or anything like that, but I think it's a nice matchup to have a young manager with a lot of these young guys, and so far it's worked. And they've defied all expectations. Even for me, I wasn't expecting this hot of a start. I was coming down on this team again. I know it's early, don't want to get too ahead of ourselves, but also we should enjoy this. So yeah, I think just him being a young guy, maybe fitting in well with that clubhouse might be something that stands out to me. What about you?
I I pay close attention to the everyday starting lineup, and I like how uh he wants the team to be very versatile. You'll see nights where the traditional outfielder, right fielder, Will Brennan, I should say. He may be used as a DH or David Fry. He caught during one of the road games. So in our first road stand, he had used three separate catchers between David Fry, Austin Hedges, and Bo Naylor. Uh, and I believe it's, Jose Ramirez bats second against lefties, bats third against righties. That's his approach. And he wants to get everyone involved, and he certainly has. One of the players I I really have enjoyed watching, Tyler Freeman. He's not a new player, but he's certainly new to center field and vote. Uh, Thought he would try him out in center field to begin the season, and it hasn't disappointed.
Yeah, definitely agree. So Nick, what do you think? Are they gonna win or lose this series with the Yankees? Before we wrap it up, what do you think?
I think they'll win the series. I think it'll be a rubber match again. So I think it'll be the deciding third game that will be played this Sunday, assuming the weather cooperates. I don't know the upcoming forecast, but um, I think it'll take three games to get the series win, and I think after this weekend, Cleveland will end up 11-4.
Yeah, that'd be great. Obviously, whenever the Yankees come to town, you expect good crowds. The weather might dampen that down a little bit, but we should be able to get some baseball in. It's not gonna be midsummer weather or anything like that, but hopefully we get decent crowds. The stadium looks great. I know there's still a long way to go with the renovations, but uh, hopefully we get a lot of people in there, especially cheering for the Guardians. We know Yankees fans travel well, and also are just throughout the country. So, yeah, I agree. I think we can take the series 2-1 most likely, and we'll be sure to bring any major updates. But look for our next episode, hopefully in about a month.
Yeah, definitely. I've enjoyed watching the Guardians so far, and gonna look forward to doing more podcasts.
All right, everyone, you've been listening to the Cleveland Sports Pros podcast. Thank you again for listening.